This episode of Fertile Talks is sponsored by ILMeds.co, an international mail order pharmacy specializing in fertility medications. If you're looking to save significantly on your fertility treatments without compromising on quality, ILMeds.co is an excellent choice, offering up to 80% of retail prices. And as a special offer to our listeners, use the code FT24 at checkout to receive a $50 discount on your order. For your convenience, you can find a link to their website in the episode show notes. Thank you, and let's get started. Welcome to Fertile Talks, the global podcast celebrating the diversity of fertility journeys. I'm your host, Dr. Yemi Famuyiwa. Whether you're just starting or simply curious, this is your safe space. In each episode, we will bring you expert insights, heartfelt personal stories, and the latest in reproductive health. Our goal is to break down barriers, tackle stigma, and provide support and hope. So, whether you're in the Americas, Africa, or Asia, Fertile Talks is your companion on the path to parenthood. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to Fertile Talks. Nice to see you again, Eric. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Off the air, we're talking about microtoxins in the air or wherever they are.
Yeah, microplastics, correct.
Microplastics, yeah. And how they've been linked to fertility issues.
Yes.
Let's first start with what are some of the most common types of microplastics, microtoxins that have been linked to fertility issues in both men and women?
So, first off, what you want to know is I guess the first question is, what are microplastics, correct?
Yes.
So, yeah, microplastics are these tiny fibers, or, plastics that are so small, like 5 nanometers. They're so small, they can actually move into cells, right? They can pass through blood vessels. And because they're so small, they can also be taken up by the body's, your body normally has like mechanisms for cleaning things up, like, mechanisms for cleaning bacteria, viruses, either absorbing it into your immune cells that come a form around it to try to get rid of it. But they're so small, they can get either taken up into the cells or they can diffuse right through the cells. They're that small.
So let me just from my knowledge and doing the research, what's the difference between microplastics and microtoxins?
So I would probably, well, when you talk about microplastics, microtoxins, you're probably delving into some of other things that could be toxic or bad for your health. So then you're talking about heavy metals, you're talking about, gases, fumes. There are a whole host of other things besides the microplastics that can be toxic to your health.
Gotcha. And now, thank you for that explanation, because then that leads me to understand that some of them we can't control. You're driving down the highway and there's microtoxins and that big smokestack. You can't do anything about that. But with microplastics, there are things that we can do to minimize that
Right.
danger. So okay.
Right.
So what are some of the most common microplastics out there?
Right. So I guess the question is, where would you pick up this stuff from?
Yes.
Either plastic breaking down, degradation of, plastic bottles, fibers from clothing, or even when the plastics melt and create a thin film. Another recent form of microplastics are the so-called microbeads that are in makeup, right? A lot of women use microbeads for facial makeup or removers, whatever else they use it for. But those beads are plastic in nature, very small, and can actually get absorbed.
So what are some of the effects in the reproductive health and hormonal balance?
So I think the danger is that some of these plastics have started showing up in places where you would not expect, right? That's what's starting to cause the alarm. Um, Imagine a plastic particle that the mother absorbs being found in her placenta, right, going to the baby. So not only is the mother being exposed, but they've shown these plastics are getting into the placenta, going to the baby. That's one part. There are also studies that looked at in males, both in animals and in humans, and found microplastics in testicular tissue, in the penis, and in semen samples, correlating it with lower sperm parameters. And I guess the one some people may have heard recently, I was reading about microplastics being detected in brain, right? And there was another study that where they looked at autopsies and found microplastic in the carotid arteries, right, going up from your heart to your head. So they can, you know, insinuate themselves into your body and show up in places that you can't even begin to imagine.
So when it comes to long-term exposure, right?
Yeah.
From what it sounds like, it's one definitely it can cause health issues within oneself. Are we
Yes.
talking infertility, miscarriage?
I think that I think that there are evidence now that there's uh, an effect on the sperm quality for sure. With regards to the long term effect in women and in babies, I think that, that is going to, we have more studies that are going to keep coming up. I think that we should all stay tuned. I think we're going to start learning more about the long term effects, which is what we want to know. What are the long term effects, right? As more of these plastics are coming around.
And what do you suggest are some good preventative measures that we can take to make sure that we don't get overly exposed, right?
Right. So it's just things like bottled water, baby bottles that could have plastics in them, single-use plastic products such as plastic cups, paper cups that are lined with a thin film of plastic, cosmetics. We talked about the micro beads, um, and then you see microplastics in fish, right?
And fish,
Yeah, they're exposed to it. Um, you know, I would say masks that people can be exposed to, um, um, chemicals such as your makeup that you're exposed to it. And also, I think one of the ways that people may be exposed, I think you and I talked about this the last time, where it may be in people's food. For instance, like we talked about, a lot of Africans like to put their fufu and wrap it in plastic, like
hmm
uh, s- plastic wraps, such as your whatchamacallit, they used to plastic they used to cover food. Well,
right?
if you heat that up, you're going to dissolve some of that, and you're going to absorb it, into your system. So in your food, which is kind of scary.
So, and this is important. I just want to let folks listening why this is important, and I guess why it was brought to my attention is that having adult kids who are either having kids or planning to have kids, and in the news, about infertility and folks going through in vitro. I think it's in the forefront now
Right,
of
right.
all
I,
these
I
things
mean,
that are causing these
yeah,
problems. So,
yeah. I mean, I'm sure everyone's heard about the oceans being filled with all these plastics running off from, rivers and streams ending up in the ocean. Um, from microplastics in washer and dryers, where the exhaust of it blows out all these fibers out into the environment. So it's getting pervasive out there in the environment.
And I don't know if this is your wheelhouse, but what's the
Yeah.
difference between these microplastics and the forever chemicals? Are we
Ah,
talking the same
yes.
thing here?
So forever chemicals are not necessarily plastics per se, but forever chemicals are chemicals that don't degrade. That's why they give the name forever chemicals. For instance, detergents that you would use to wash your clothes or put in a washing machine may have chemicals that are called forever chemicals because they simply don't break down. That's where the name comes from. So if you have some detergents where they have this chemicals in there, and you wash your clothes, and the fluid from washing your clothes is discharged out there, you are having these chemicals that are toxic to the nature. They're called PFAs, polyfluoroalkyl compounds. They don't break down, right? I think in the state of New York, you can look it up. New York banned certain detergents from being sold in New York because of the presence of this chemical. When I heard that, I'm like, whoa, let me go read more about that. So now, and I tell my patients, if you going to buy your detergent, make sure it has one of those that says free and clear, whatever brand, free and clear from XYZ brand. And because that's what I look for, right? So to cut down on the forever chemicals, they're polyfluoroalkyl substances, that's PFAs. And research has shown from the NIEHS, Environmental Health Sciences Studies, that the PFAs may reduce fertility in women by as much as 40%.
40%.
Yeah, as much as
Wow.
40%. Because they don't break down. Mm.
I tell you.
Yeah.
So in terms of the government, and we're just talking straight government as a whole, are they moving fast in this? Because this is not only an environmental problem, but it is also a reproductive problem, right?
Right.
Potentially.
Again, like for instance, New York bans those detergents, but not every state does, right? So there's no um, law, there's no regulation banning it in from a, maybe it's just an oversight, it's just something they haven't really paid attention to. And in the states where they actually did pay attention to, they are making moves to say, well, we're going to protect our citizens. I mean, states have a lot of problems and probably a lot of things to focus on. Maybe it's just something that they haven't paid attention to. And maybe you and I talking about it and getting the word out in the open is hopefully going to start the train rolling to say, hey, listen, what can we do about these things? I mean, let's face it, fertility is on the decline worldwide, right? Even in America,
Yeah.
we used to
Mhm.
say fertility was 1 in 8. Now we're saying 1 in 6. It's like everywhere you turn, you have more and more fertile issues. These compounds not only affect female fertility, but they also affect male fertility, right? And there are studies I'm looking at right now that says, exposure in utero for male fetuses to the compounds we're talking about, the forever chemical exposure, resulted in lower sperm count and motility, and it interferes with hormone crucial for testicular development, right? So hopefully, as more and more conversation is being had, we can try to protect more people.
Sounds like we are under attack by our own selves and modern innovation, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
Doc, as I we conclude this interview, thank you so much again for being part of it and talking about
Okay.
this important subject. But you continue to crusade and continue to fight on your own platform. Tell us about that. Where can we find you and listen more?
So I am in YouTube. You can Montgomery Fertility on YouTube. My biggest platform is Linktree. So all my platforms, including YouTube, including Instagram, including Facebook, as well as LinkedIn, and also I do blogs on Kevin MD as well as medium.com. So trying to get the message out, trying to be there and just make sure that in my own little way, I'm trying to disseminate the information, and hopefully more and more people will get the message. And I recently launched a podcast called Fertile Talks, as you're well aware. So hopefully we'll stay, just share that knowledge, and just hopefully the voice will get loud enough that other people will start to hear it.
All right, Dr. Yama, you take care, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you for tuning in to Fertile Talks. We hope today's episode has provided you with valuable insights and support for your fertility journey. Remember, you are not alone. Now, if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, please simply leave us a comment. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe with a friend. Your ratings, your shares, and your reviews are greatly appreciated and is going to help us serve more of our listening audience. Thank you once again. This is Dr. Famuyiwa.